Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick, and we only have Harrison tonight. How are we doing, Harrison?
You say only like that's a problem. You have Harrison. Like, how great a show is this going to be, Nick?
There's a lot to cover tonight, but
Holy crap!
Yeah, it's been insane. But first, congratulations to our third leg of this team, Sean. He got married last week, and I just got in from Boston late last night. It was a blast, but congrats to him. It was awesome. So
I'm proud of our Shawnee. He's adulting hard this year. The house,
yeah,
the wife now, like he's on his way.
Man, oh man,
He's come a
moving
long
on
way.
up. Yes, he has. He's growing up, but before our eyes. But
So sad.
all right, like I said, we have a lot to get into. But first, just make sure that you follow and like us on Facebook. You can also subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. So the news that completely shocked the baseball world this afternoon. We knew Craig Counsell was interviewing for jobs, but the Cubs weren't even on the radar. Like, they didn't fire David Ross.
They weren't looking for a manager.
Right. Until they hired Craig Counsell. So it was like, first of all, no one knew he even interviewed with the Cubs. And then they were just like, okay, thanks. We're going to take Counsell as our manager. And thanks for all you did, David Ross. But hit the road, Jack. I don't have any words. First of all, it's like in division, which is crazy to me. Like, he's going to go back and see the Brewers. What is it now? 13 times, 15 times in a year?
Yeah, 13, I think.
I don't know. It's crazy. It was stunning. I couldn't believe it. Like, my mind was blown. It's still blown. But he signed, was it 5 years, 40 plus million?
Yeah.
So he's going to make $8 million a year as a manager. What was your initial reaction when you heard it?
I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like a headline I misread. I must have reread the headline 3 or 4 times and the article at least twice, because a month ago, the Cubs were raving about how great a job David Ross did getting them one step closer. He was their guy. He's a Chicago guy. They're excited he's the manager. And then all of a sudden today, they just call up and go, hey, Dave, you're done. Thanks for everything. Bye. And they hired Craig Counsell. So as of today, the Cubs weren't looking for a manager that anybody knew of. They weren't looking to hire anybody. David Ross was their guy. They were quite happy with him until they weren't. And they literally fired him today. And from what I've heard, he wasn't even in town. It was like a phone call, like, hey, David, you're done. Thanks. Bye. And they hired Craig Counsell on the spot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Lost.
I guess in the article I'm reading on ESPN, the Cubs did it before. So when they hired Joe Maddon, Rick Renteria was also in the middle of his contract there with Chicago. And they're like, hey, thanks. Bye. We're hiring Joe Maddon. But I mean, the whole thing that's crazy is like the Brewers allowed Counsell to go and interview for other jobs.
Yep.
Like that's the weird part. And you said that they offered him like a top of the line contract too. And he
so there's there's a report today that the Brewers had actually offered Counsell an extension that also would have made him the highest paid manager in baseball. There is something, and I don't think Craig Counsell is a bad manager. I think he's a good manager, but I don't think he's like the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Like, he's not the number one guy. Now, is he up for manager of the year this year? Yes. I mean, did he do a good job? Yeah, he did a good job. And they've made the playoffs a bunch of times and gone nowhere. Not necessarily all on him, but I don't think of Craig Counsell as like the top manager, but he's going to be paid as the top manager. He was pursued like he was the top manager. There's something he's doing that has everybody like falling in love with him. But I don't understand this. He was going to interview with the Mets. That didn't seem to go where he wanted it to. The Brewers were going to make him an offer to come back or to extend him. And then all of a sudden he gets introduced as the new Cubs manager. I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No one. The news was just absolutely shocking. I've also seen that it's kind of, they're trying to set the managers market here because college coaches and the NCAA and these big programs are making buco bucks, and you have these major league managers sitting on the bench making, $1 million or $2 million a year. So I think that's possibly another reason why, like, maybe he's an advocate for that, and he wants managers to get paid what they're worth. But the way he went about it was pretty like crazy. The way it just all unfolded was nuts.
Yeah, and just as a reference point, the highest paid manager in baseball history prior to this was Joe Torre. In his last year at the Yankees, he made $7.5 million. That was a team that it was coming off of 3 straight World Series championships.
Right.
Craig Counsell's coming off of 5 out of 6 first-round playoff exits.
Yep.
Like, these are not the same.
Bob Melvin was set to make $4 million this year as the Giants manager, making him the highest paid manager currently. But Counsell came in and blew that out of the water. So,
yep.
Or the Cubs did. I don't know if Counsell necessarily did, but
yeah. Well, and you said it before we jumped on, Nick. Like, I look at this. You had one perspective, I had another. One is, this is the second time the Cubs have done this to a manager, kind of pulled the rug out from underneath them, which is going to, if, when Craig Counsell does leave, he won't be there forever. If it's the same regime, it's going to make managers wonder, like, is that a safe place to go be the manager? And if you're Counsell, you got to wonder. They've done it to 2 other people. They're going to do it to me after the second or third year of my own contract because I'm making so much money. My perspective of it, too, was among managers, people are going to see Craig Counsell as the guy who went to interview for a job that wasn't available and he got another guy fired. That, I don't think in the manager ranks around Major League Baseball, that's going to be well received. And I don't see him being a guy who's going to get a lot of high fives at the general managers meetings coming up. I think people are going to see that as being a little bit like a snake in the grass.
A lot of it like the snake in the grass. Yeah. I mean, I never even thought of it really that way, but like, yeah, it's kind of like bro code, right? Like
right.
You just don't do it.
You just interviewed for a job that wasn't available and took it from a guy who a month ago was the guy they were excited to have come back.
Yeah.
Like, you did that. That's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah. And I mean, the Cubs, we thought were heading in the right direction. And I mean, who knows what they're gonna do this offseason. We'll get to the opt-outs and all of that craziness in a little bit. But Bellinger's gone, Stroman's gone. They still have a young core there. I mean, I get it. And I'm sure Counsell does a great job developing talent. I mean, the Brewers always seem to be there, like you said. They just never can get over the hump.
Yep.
And if they think he's going to bring the Cubs over that hump, then sure, it's a good hire. But the Cubs weren't that far out of the playoff race this year with David Ross.
No, and they were early. They weren't supposed to be good yet.
No. Does Counsell get you to the next step if you're the Chicago Cubs? I don't know if it does. I don't think it moves the needle at all, to be honest.
I don't see how it does. And all indications were, David Ross did a really nice job there with a young, kind of stabilizing team. And when you look around baseball, there are a few people that are as respected around the game as David Ross.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Cubs just took a very, very well-respected guy, ripped the rug out from underneath him, and made him look ridiculous, all to go hire a guy who honestly hasn't done jack.
Right.
I don't get it. I think this looks bad for the Cubs. I think it looks bad for Counsell unless they go out and win a World Series in a year or two. But like now Counsell better put up because there's no other option here. If you're going to be the highest paid guy that took a job that wasn't available from a well-respected guy, you better be that good.
I have nothing else to say. I mean, I
don't get it. I feel horrible for David Ross. I feel like he got hosed. Jed Hoyer, made the announcement, and I don't think, I mean, and the reactions, there's some people that are really going off right now on what happened and how ugly it looks.
Oh, for sure. Listen to this, right? Counsell owns the Brewers record for most wins, 707. Okay. Playoff wins, 7. 7 playoff wins.
In 6 appearances.
The team has not been able to replicate its run to Game 7 of the NL Championship Series in 2018, going 1-8 in the postseason since.
Yep. Yeah, you're not getting Bruce Bochy. You're not getting Dusty Baker. You're not getting a guy like that. You're getting a guy who has been very good at winning a weak division and getting bounced in the playoffs. That's what you're getting. Now, would he be better if they had a better team? Of course he would. But like this is not a guy who's taken a bad team to new heights. Like he's in the manager of the year conversation this year. I have no idea why.
Because they won the division.
They
And
won
who
it,
else?
but they won a division where their primary opponents, the Cardinals, imploded,
Yep.
and then they held off two young upstart teams.
Yep. Agree.
I
I
don't
mean,
look at the
even
job he did as, oh my goodness, this guy was so amazing. It's
right.
like they did what they were supposed to do. They won 92 games and took the division.
I mean,
Okay,
you can even put three up and coming young teams because the
true.
Pirates there for the first half of the season were in fuego. No one could
Yep.
beat them. But yeah, man, we're gonna move on because we
Yep.
have a ton to talk about. But that one was just my jaw hit the floor, and everyone's like, "Dude, you all right?" And I was like, you aren't baseball fans, you won't get it." But I was just like absolutely stunned.
If somebody gets this, please leave a comment and explain to us why this makes sense because I don't get it.
Absolutely nuts. All right, so we got that big story out of the way. Let's go back and recap the World Series real quick. Obviously, the Texas Rangers beat the Arizona Diamondbacks in 5 games. They win 4-1. Corey Seager wins his second World Series MVP, joining elite company there.
Yep.
This dude is an absolute animal.
Yes.
And we'll get to Corey Seager again when we go over the regular season awards because we're going to talk about him there again. But the Rangers bullpen held up. I mean, other than game 2 when the Diamondbacks just kind of went out and stomped them.
They just stuffed it to him.
The Rangers pretty much just rolled over them.
The
Diamondbacks could not get the runner home from second base. That was their biggest. They just couldn't get that hit when they needed it.
No, they couldn't. And the Diamondbacks had so many chances. So many guys left on base, so many opportunities. In game 1 they did it, in game 2 they did it. They just could not do it after that. And in the Rangers defense, it's not like the Rangers didn't pitch well. But they didn't pitch as well as they did in the ALCS.
Right.
I feel like the D-backs had way more chances. If this Rangers team that won the World Series played the Astros in the championship series the way they played the D-backs, they would have lost. But the D-backs were clearly just overmatched by what the Rangers brought to the table.
I mean, just that second Nathan Eovaldi start alone. Yeah. How many times did that guy get out of jams?
He had like 5 walks.
Yeah. Every inning he had 2 runners on or bases loaded in some situations. Constant. And he got out of them every single time. The Diamondbacks just could not get that one more hit to get them over the hump to break the ice.
Yeah.
And if they did, it was too late. Like, I mean, they had that game that they were blowing them out, and the Diamondbacks came and scored like 5 in the bottom of the 8th, but it didn't matter because they were losing by 11 already to start. So, I do want to touch on Zach Gallen's outing though, because he went out and threw 6 innings of no hit ball. The Rangers couldn't touch him
and got 0 run support.
0 run
support. Like, and I was texting you and Sean. I'm like, Gallen deserves better than this. Like he carried that team as far as he could, and they just couldn't get him anything.
And then just like the Rangers do, 3 hits and they got a 3-run lead. I mean, then that's all it took. But
they strike quick, and you look at the pitching. Eovaldi wasn't great, but in typical Eovaldi fashion, he gutted out a start for you.
Yep.
But he walked a lot of guys. He was very erratic, a lot of deep counts, a lot of base runners. The Diamondbacks never made it hurt. Jordan Montgomery was not great either. You didn't have Adolis Garcia there for the last game or two. It didn't matter because Seager went off. This Rangers, as much as the Rangers weren't as good as they were in the ALCS, that team is that good that they were able to overcome all that because the Diamondbacks were just overwhelmed. Because I swear to God, every time you looked up at the end of the first inning or end of the second inning, it's 2-0. Yep. Like the Rangers just keep coming at you. Everybody's coming at you. There's no break in that lineup.
No. And Evan Carter, the rookie, played 17 regular season games and comes up and reaches in all 17 postseason games for the
Can
Rangers.
He even buy a beer? Like, how old is this kid?
I think he just turned 21.
It's insane. I don't think he shaves yet, but he was so good for them.
He is I think the shoe-in for AL Rookie of the Year next year. This kid's legit. He's fast. He plays defense. He can hit. I think he's AL Rookie of the Year next year.
Yeah. Oh,
But
for sure. And then one guy I think that kind of gets overlooked in all this is that Marcus Semien really came to life after game 2, and he
yeah,
had a couple of really big bombs for them that just iced games.
yeah,
He had been scuffling a little bit, and he came to life right when they needed him because Adolis Garcia goes down, and then Marcus Semien goes, "Nope, I got you, bud," and he just threw them on his back.
yeah. That double down the line kind of put a dagger in it.
Oh,
Put him up early, and then that 3-run bomb in the top of the 9th in
dagger!
Game 5 to just drive it on home. Must have
That
been
stadium was radio silent after that. Like it went quiet.
yeah. So congratulations to the Texas Rangers. I know Sean and even you were picking them to pull, go pretty far, but never really expected a World Series run. But I mean, Bruce Bochy, man, off the couch, World Series champion. I mean,
and what amazed me too is what the players had to say about him, both after the game, at the parade. Like this guy, the amount of respect and genuine love that the players have for Bruce Bochy, what he does, the way he shows up day to day, the way he treats these guys, the way he handles the roster. That clubhouse would take a bullet for that man.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that level, see a manager that's so new to that organization, and immediately these guys just want to run it back with him. I think the world of what he's done. So,
and you can hear it in the interviews. Every single player interview was team. Yep. No one was like, oh yeah, I did this in this situation. It was like, nope, like the guys got on in front of me, gave me the opportunity to drive them in. And if I didn't, then the guy behind me did. Like it was all team the whole time. Everything Bochy said, everything the player said. And that's the key to success. And buying into the team mentality. And it showed.
It was next man up. That's always been Bochy's mantra, next man up, and we pick each other up. And for a little while there, Evan Carter was red hot. Then he was quiet. And then Semien was cold. Then he came up big. And Seager had stretches. Then he came up big. And Garcia was a monster. Then he goes down, and they step up and they fill the gap. You didn't even realize he was gone.
Yeah, Jankowski went 3 for 3 at one point. His first 3 at bats, he had 3 singles. It's like, all right, like
just next guy up, keep going. Like it's all team.
Yeah.
I want to give, and I do have to give props to Corey Seager for getting one back on Alex Bregman with his comment, because Bregman made that just kind of smug comment of, they wonder what it was like if the Astros didn't win the division. I guess we'll never know. And Seager got his.
Yeah, it was so good. It was awesome.
The shot heard around the world, and that is set up to be a really fun rivalry in the AL West for a while.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just buying tickets to Houston when Texas goes there, because that one's going to be wild.
That's going to be big. I honestly wish that they open the season in Texas against the Astros and have the ring ceremony. I hope they do it. Right? I hope they do it with Houston in town, because that would be the ultimate.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. But yeah, so again, congratulations to the Rangers, all the Rangers fans out there. I mean, it was an improbable run. I mean, coming down the stretch, we weren't even sure if the Rangers were going to even be there.
Boy, they tried. They tried to not make the playoffs.
Right. And then going from like Seattle to Tampa, then like they traveled all over the place. They overcame it.
Yeah.
And
was it 11-0 on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
Yeah. And did you see that like meme? It was like they beat the Rays, the Orioles, the Astros, and Diamondbacks road.
Yeah, road. Yep.
It's so cool. But
yeah, that team, I mean, we expected them to do well. We had big questions about their bullpen, as we should have, because the bullpen was a problem during the season. But when it mattered, boy, did they show up.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. But that's part of Bochy having postseason experience, knowing what to do with a not so equipped bullpen.
Yep.
And bringing guys in the correct spots. So, I mean, hats off, man. That was just an absolute clinic.
Yeah, there was only once or twice I can think of where I saw Bochy make a move, and I kind of went, I don't know if I do that right now. And
yeah,
a couple of them worked out great. I'm like, okay, never mind. You know what you're doing. A couple times it didn't work out great, but I think he was determined to give guys chances. And you got here with them. You're gonna get to the next level with them, and he didn't deviate. He stayed to the plan.
His use of Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning kind of puzzled me.
Yeah,
because I think I would have started Dane Dunning right away. The only thing I can think of is he likes that left-handed matchup with Carroll at the top,
I think so.
swinging Marte to the right side. I mean, you could have thrown a beach ball at Christian Walker this series and he wouldn't have hit it. Although he did start coming on the last couple of games, but a little too late.
Well, I think that's worth mentioning, Nick.
Yeah.
I think you look at the Diamondbacks, and I mean, they way overperformed this year, no doubt.
For sure.
And I as a side, I felt bad, the way that Torey Lovullo felt like he had to apologize for not getting the job done, because they weren't supposed to be there. Like, before Torey Lovullo feels like he didn't do a good job, they weren't supposed to be there, period. But it was very clear in the World Series that they're still a couple pieces away. They did not have, having to go a full bullpen game in Game 3 because they literally had nobody else. That was
game 4.
Game 4. Sorry, Game 4, because they literally had nobody else. That was disappointing to see them have to go there. They had big holes in the lineup, and Christian Walker is a good hitter. He was a black hole, but they have just enough to get there, but they don't yet have enough to really get over the hump.
The one thing I do like about this playoff run in general, I'm not talking just the Rangers, just the Diamondbacks. I'm talking the Phillies, like pedigree, the Rangers pedigree, Diamondbacks pedigree. If you look at those 3 teams that had pretty good success in the postseason, their starters actually went 5 or 6 innings. They went deep into the ball games. I'm hoping that kind of switches from what we were seeing out of the freaking Dodgers, and being like, oh, it's a bullpen game every single game, or your starter goes 2 and then it's a bullpen game. Like, I'm hoping gone are those days, because I like seeing the starters actually stretch out. The Diamondbacks was mostly out of necessity, right? I mean, like,
they had nobody.
They had a great bullpen, but like, you don't have that 4th starter. No. You don't have, so like, you have to have those starters stretch out so you could have those guys available for Game 4. When you have 2 dominant pitchers at the top of the Phillies rotation, like Nola and Wheeler, and then Ranger Suarez comes out of nowhere and like deals in the postseason. He's
so good in the postseason.
Yeah, you have 3 top of the line starters that get you deep outings. Like, that's only going to help you not have to use Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's brutal. It is. And that's what the Rangers kind of got too, because like, as soon as they got depth from their starters and they were able to stay away from Aroldis Chapman as much as possible, they had some success.
Yep.
Like, can Chapman still bring it? Oh yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to face the dude.
Oh, no.
But his stats aren't good. He goes in and it's a heart attack every time
he misses over the middle way too much.
Yep. Agree.
But in Game 4, I think it was Game 4, maybe it was Game 5 against Corbin Carroll, when he just masterfully set him up and then broke the slider off and froze him. Like, Chapman's, and it was right down the middle, but it didn't matter because he'd thrown 400-mile-per-hour fastballs dotting the corners of the zone and then completely tied Carroll up. Chapman can still do that, but he breaks the slider off on Carroll literally down the chute. So if he doesn't freeze him there, that ball is a souvenir. But his stuff is still good enough to get away with that sometimes.
Yep.
And back to your point about the pitching, what really undid the Houston Astros was they could not get a starter through the 4th inning. They were in their bullpen against that series against the Rangers. I mean, how many times did we see guys come out in the 2nd inning? I think at least 2 starters came out in the 2nd inning. They could not get a starter to eat up any innings.
Yeah. And as good as that Astros bullpen is, it's all right-handed. That whole entire bullpen's right-handed. So then you bring in every left-handed bat off the bench, and now you have a leg up.
And you got Seager and Heim and Lowe, like guys that are just waiting to feast on right-handers. And by the latter part of that series, that Astros bullpen was cooked. They were done.
And after you see him 3 or 4 times, you're gonna hit him. Exactly. That's just, it's inevitable.
Yeah. So it definitely, the starters, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and I love how that pendulum's swinging back, because I think that's important for how teams are now going to, approach free agency, approach trades, all of that stuff going forward. So let's get into the awards that were just announced today. And then we'll get into all the opt-outs, which that is a long laundry list of things that have happened the last couple days. Nuts. So they did announce Gold Glove winners. In the AL, you have Jose Barrios as a pitcher, Jonah Heim as the catcher, Nathaniel Lowe at first, Andres Jimenez at second, Matt Chapman at third, kind of no surprise there. Anthony Volpe at short. I mean,
I'm just going to say, yep, we're going to keep going.
Stephen Kwan in left, Kevin Kiermaier in center. Kevin Kiermaier has been a top tier defender for,
and that's his
this guy's got a
fourth
cannon.
Gold Glove, right?
I mean, it's got to be up there. Adolis Garcia with his 5 million outfield assists this year.
His arm is a friggin' cannon.
Yeah, I think they said it in the World Series. He had 29 outfield
20.
assists.
He led the league by a lot.
It wasn't even
He is
close.
the top-rated arm in baseball.
Your utility, Mauricio Dubon from the Houston Astros.
Well, he was only elected at 3 or nominated 3 positions.
Yeah, so that's my question. That happened to Dalton Varsho last year too, because he was nominated for the Diamondbacks in right field and then also as utility. I feel that if you're nominated for one position, you shouldn't be nominated for utility, right? I mean, that's how I would. It's like giving the DH a Gold Glove.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to be the utility guy, that's the only spot you should qualify at, because you clearly, if you're the utility guy, you didn't play enough innings in any one position to really call that your primary position.
Agree.
So yeah, totally. I feel like you should not be nominated for utility and something else. You're the utility guy.
Yeah. All right. In the NL, Zach Wheeler's your pitcher. Your catcher's Gabriel Moreno from the Diamondbacks. I watched that kid catch all year, and it was awesome. Christian Walker at first, no surprise. If you guys haven't seen that, I mean, it wasn't a glove play, but that ball that bounced off first base and he barehanded as it jetted back to his right. I mean, that was a crazy play.
Throughout the playoffs, especially the World Series, Walker made several really, really impressive plays that he just made look easy.
Yep, absolutely. Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson. So the middle infield for the Chicago Cubs won Gold Gloves, which was the first time in a few years that had happened. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and both deserving. Nico Horner is very good with the glove. Dansby Swanson.
Yep.
I will say, I think Dansby Swanson makes Nico Horner better.
Agree.
Because I think that's the kind of player Dansby Swanson is. But those two in the middle are so much fun to watch.
Yep. Cabrian Hayes from the Pirates at third. We've seen him live. He's got crazy hands over there.
And I will say, if Arenado's not going to win it, I'm okay with Cabrian Hayes getting it. I don't love it, but I'm okay with it.
Agree. So we got Ian Happ in left, so another Cub. Brenton Doyle's a rookie in center. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right. And then Ha-Seong Kim is utility. And Ha-Seong Kim, I mean, can play anywhere.
There are
that dude's
29
ridiculous.
other teams in baseball that would love to see that guy on their roster.
Yep. Sean was calling for it at the deadline. He's like, bring him to the Red Sox. Let's go.
He is super talented. And a guy who really was relatively unknown coming into the season.
Right. Yeah, it kind of burst on the scene there.
Super talented.
All right. So those were your Gold Gloves.
Let's go to the elephant in the room here. Volpe at shortstop in the AL. Now, I don't hate Volpe as the pick. I don't love Volpe as the pick because I think he is a solid defender. But I don't understand him getting the Gold Glove nod. Am I alone there, or are you with me on that one, Nick?
I'm with you. I think there's better defenders. I think Nick Fanning said it on one of our comments, was like, the MLB wants Anthony Volpe to be the guy.
Yeah.
They want him to be the next big thing so bad that they gave him this. I mean, I don't know what his defensive stats are, like right off the top of my head. But I mean, after watching Seager play short during the playoffs this year, he made some great plays look easy, or tough plays look easy, I should say. I mean, Bo Bichette, but you have injury there. I don't know. I just don't know how deep the AL shortstop pool was to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was.
You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, I don't think it was super deep. I will say that in the AL, when you think of shortstops, so your finalists were Carlos Correa, Corey Seager, and Anthony Volpe. All three very good defenders. You know, for a while there, Correa was considered the cream of the crop in the AL, platinum glove winner. Jeremy Pena
Yep.
took it from him last year.
Yep.
And another Jeremy Pena, another fantastic defender. I
Yep.
I will say Volpe was tied for the lead with 16 defensive runs saved. He is very good defensively. But I think the problem with Volpe is I don't like in the World Series alone, Corey Seager must have saved what, 3 runs with some ridiculous
Had to
plays.
have.
Ridiculous plays.
Had to have.
And Correa's got the same kind of play. I don't see Volpe as the same kind of impact defensive guy. But part of the problem is kind of like the old days of Andrew Jones. I think Volpe just makes all the plays. He doesn't
Right.
necessarily make all the crazy flashy plays, but he makes all the plays. So as Volpe statistically absolutely deserves it, I just don't think of him as the premier shortstop in the American League.
Yeah. I mean, if he backs it up with a second, a third, a fourth,
Sure.
then you know what? I'll come back and eat my words. But I just don't know.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't watch a ton of Yankees games because I'm biased against them. So like I don't know exactly like, you know, I didn't get to go watch him every day and really see what kind of a defender
Yeah.
he is. But I mean, like you said, like sometimes players are almost too good to be noticed for a Gold Glove, right? They're always in position where they don't have to make the flashy play, or you know, they're always in the correct position. They always make the routine plays. So I mean,
And
sure.
I feel like Dansby
But
Swanson is that a little bit. Dansby doesn't make a ton of like crazy diving flashy plays, but he makes anything that he can reach, he gets.
yeah,
So it's
1,000%.
I don't know. Volpe statistically has the chops to be the Gold Glove winner. I just don't think him as the cream of the crop. When I see him against Seager and Correa, I kind of feel to myself that one of those other guys is probably more deserving. Although Seager's never won one. But I just like you think of the big moments, the impact plays. Those guys have more of them, but Volpe is rock solid.
Yeah. Agree.
So, like I said, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I was surprised to see him get it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to. So these are all the MLB awards finalists. We got Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year, Cy Young, and MVP. They were just announced like about an hour ago. So we'll start in the Rookie of the Year in the American League. We got Tanner Bibby, Tristan Cassis, and Gunnar Henderson. Now, I initially was like, where the hell is Josh Young? How did he not make a top 3, at least a finalist? I'm not calling him for him to win Rookie of the Year because he did miss a month and a half or so. But he should have been in the top 3 there.
Yeah.
Tristan Cassis had a crazy back half of the season. He slashed like 317, like I mean his slash line was ridiculous.
Yeah, 317, 417, 617, 180 at bats.
Yeah. So I mean, I can get that. And I mean, obviously Gunnar Henderson. I think it was Gunnar Henderson's to win anyways. I think he's the shoe-in here. Nothing to take out of Bibby because he had a pretty good season too, like sneakily.
Guy got a 2.98 ERA over 142 innings, and he didn't give up more than 300 runs in 23 of his 25 starts.
Yeah.
Like very good. I mean, very, very
I didn't
good.
realize that until I looked it up tonight. And then I was like, okay, well then maybe Josh Young doesn't belong in the top 3 after seeing those stats.
Yeah,
because there was only 8 pitchers with a sub-3 ERA this year.
But so
and he was.
I think what hurts Josh Young, we talked about a while ago, is that he missed 40 games. You know, they played 122 games, hit 266, 23 home runs, 70 RBIs, 25 doubles, an OBP of 315. You know, statistically, he and Tristan Cassis were very close, but Young missed 40 games. Like that, his stat line was so good that he did what Cassis did in a full season or nearly full season in 40 fewer games.
Yep. And those 3 finished the season where Young didn't, you know, so, and I'm saying that because I'm prefacing a debate for later on. So, all right, Rookie of the Year in the NL. I think this is a no-brainer.
I think both of them probably are.
Yeah. So Corbin Carroll, obviously, James Outman and Kodai Senga. which we mentioned a couple weeks ago that we knew it was going to be those three. But this is a runaway for Corbin Carroll, I believe. 25 homers, 50 stolen bases. What that guy did for the Diamondbacks this year was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a stud for years to come.
Yeah,
This dude's legit.
I think Corbin Carroll's a runaway. I do think it's unfortunate because James Outman and Cody Senga both had very good seasons, and normally they would be runaway winners, but Corbin Carroll is just another level.
Yep.
Another level.
Agree. All right. Manager of the year in the AL, we got Bruce Bochy, Kevin Cash, and Brandon Hyde.
I feel like you just put Kevin Cash in this bucket every year.
I hate it. So,
I do too, but I mean, you can't take it away from him. The guy consistently gets a young, raw team and wins the division and makes the playoffs. Just over and over and over again.
And after the start that the Rays had, I mean, hit a historical start. I mean, it's nuts. But I think this is a two-man race. This is Bochy and this is Hyde. I mean,
I agree.
I am on the fence. I'm only on the fence because it's a regular season award, right? You took an Orioles team, like, yes, they were young. Yes, we knew they were good. They were talented. But did anybody expect them to win the AL East?
No.
Nope. And they did. Yes, their playoff exit was, very heartbreaking.
Yep.
But, I mean, he brought that team years ahead of where they were supposed to be. And then you got Bruce Bochy, fresh off the couch, goes out, gets his team to the postseason, barely.
Yeah, they
got
backed in, but they made it.
And then they win the World Championship. Again, it's a regular season award. So who do you think gets this?
So, I mean, if I have to pick this based on the performance for the year, I have to give it to Brandon Hyde. I think to have that young team win 101 games and win the AL East and stare down the Rays, I feel like it has to go to Brandon Hyde. The Rangers were under 500 for 7 straight years before Bruce Bochy came out of retirement and took them to the promised land. However, that team was built to go there. The Orioles were building to get there and got there fast. So I feel like Bruce Bochy did a fantastic job, but I feel like you have to give this one to Brandon Hyde because that team was so far above and beyond where they're expected to be.
I'm kind of leaning towards you there because I think that, the expected win-loss record or win total for the Orioles was like 79 preseason, right? And they blew it out by like 22 games.
They were supposed to be competitive this year. They were not supposed to be dominant.
No, and they were. I mean, so as much as I think Bruce Bochy should win it for coming off the couch and doing what he did, literally coaching his grandchildren in like T-ball, I think Brandon Hyde has to get it. I just because of what he did with that Orioles team.
And one thing interesting too about the Orioles that there is no team in baseball that had more comeback victories than Baltimore. They won 48 games coming from behind, which that's late game management. That is confidence. That is, keeping a team comfortable. That's a lot on the manager. A young team that gets behind early in a game oftentimes will lay down, and they never did that.
You're right. And I think youth kind of plays a toll in that, right? Because they don't know you're supposed to feel that way.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, we're down. Okay.
And good. He wouldn't, and he didn't let him either.
No, but it also helps when you have Yanier Cano and Felix Bautista in the back half of your bullpen, knowing that they're not going to score when those guys come out in the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
No, so. And I mean that team they're so good. They've got such a great balance of some veterans with some super talented young players.
Yeah.
But you look up and down. They outperformed everywhere. They outperformed on the mound. You look at Bradish, what he did. Like, he was not expected to be that good. They just everywhere you look up and down that roster, they had great seasons. That team played so well together. Yanier Cano was a cast off from somewhere else and came to Baltimore and lit it up. Like, everything worked, and you have to give a lot of that to the manager.
I want so bad to the Orioles to go out and make a splash in free agency here.
Yes.
Or make a deal. I so hope that.
But what do they need? Like, that's the problem, is what do you need?
I think you get another starter,
Well, yeah, always more starting
right?
pitching.
You probably get another starter. You could probably get another outfield. As much as I love Cedric Mullins, he kind of disappeared this year.
Well, then, yeah, and he,
Um,
as he usually does, he battled injuries the whole second half. Like, he's another guy that
yeah,
doesn't get on the field enough.
I think you could get some key depth pieces and maybe a veteran or something in there. I mean, they have a plethora of young talent that you could deal away to maybe get a Juan Soto or
Every other
something.
day, they are bringing up
So
another kid from the minor leagues that would light the world on fire.
crazy. We could spend an hour and a half just talking about the guys that came up. But all right, National League Manager of the Year. Here's that name again, Craig Counsell for your Milwaukee Brewers Chicago Cubs manager. Anyways, Skip Schumacher from the Marlins, and obviously Brian Snicker from the Braves.
I love Brian Snitker, but him being on here is an embarrassment because that team was supposed to be that good.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's a joke, but I get it.
I would love Skip Schumacher to get this.
I am all in on Skip Schumacher. That team was not supposed to be good. Alcantara was non-existent. Their best player was non-existent most of the year. They had injuries like crazy, and they still won. Craig Counsell, his claim to fame is the Brewers had the best ERA in the majors. Well, you've got some really damn good starting pitchers on that roster. You should have been that good.
Right.
But again, like 92 wins, 6 division title. How many playoff wins do you guys have? Friggin' none. Like none.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
You won another division in a weak division. Great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, not only did the Marlins make the playoffs, they played in arguably the toughest division, one of the toughest divisions in the major leagues this year. With the Phillies, with the Braves. Yeah, the Mets weren't what they were supposed to be. That helps.
Yep.
And then the Nationals are the Nationals. But no one expected the Marlins to be there at the end. So, and they were.
The Marlins fought like hell all season and didn't get anything out of their Cy Young winner. Like, to me,
right.
what Schumacher did down in Miami to keep them in playoff contention is next level.
Yeah.
To me,
name me a Marlins starting pitcher. Go ahead, do it. Other than Alcantara. Exactly.
I mean, I've watched a bunch of their games. I still couldn't tell you who they are.
Yep. It's I think it's his to win, to be completely honest, out of those three.
And I mean, you had Luis Ariz, who carried that team for a long time. You had
Soler.
You had contributions all up and down that lineup. But the most important thing to me is the fact that they made the playoffs when they're expected to not be anywhere near it. And their Cy Young winner gave you nothing. Like, they won in spite of that. Like, they had everything against them in that division and on that roster, and they still made it. Yeah. Like, hats off to Skip Schumacher. Insane. This is your award, buddy. If anybody else wins it, it's a travesty.
Agree. All right, Cy Young in the AL. I think this is also a runaway here, but here we go. Garrett Cole, Kevin Gausman, Sonny Gray are your nominees. I think it's Garrett Cole's. I mean, I don't.
Sorry.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, but
it is.
This dude is just completely dominant.
And
no one can.
What's more amazing is how wretched that Yankees team was for most of the season, and he still went out there and.
Yeah.
And what's more frightening is that how many games did he go out there with a quality start and not win?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I mean, 2.63 ERA, 209 innings pitched, which is almost unheard of now. 206 batting average. He had a .98 whip. I mean, it's his to win.
The guy gave up 4 earned runs in September.
Yes.
And it didn't matter because the Yankees could not put it together.
No. I don't
literally, like, he gave up 4 earned runs in September. I hate it. I hate every bit of Kermit the Frog winning. But he's going to, because you cannot make a case for anybody else. You just can't.
I mean, Sonny Gray had a great year.
Great year.
He really
Kevin
did.
Gausman led the majors in strikeouts with 237.
Yep. I mean, but Sonny Gray has a 2.79 ERA. He only gave up 8 home runs this year.
That dude's going to get paid in the offseason.
Yes, he is. And we'll get to him next week. But yeah, I think it's Garrett Cole to win. So let's move over to the National League Cy Young. We got Zach Gallen, Blake Snell, and Logan Webb are your finalists there. What are your feelings there?
I know everybody wants Blake Snell to win it. I look at his stat line and go, yeah, all right, like good. But he didn't make an impact.
Yeah, I mean that Padres team is just a mess right now, so it's hard to get behind him. Is that what you mean? Like it's hard to get behind?
Like it's hard to get excited about giving the Cy Young to a guy on a team that stunk.
Yep.
And yeah,
which again, you're prefacing something for a debate later.
Exactly. We're building up something else, but
yeah.
I mean, I feel like just straight up stats, you have to give it to Blake Snell because the 234 strikeouts, he struck out almost 1 out of 3 batters he faced. You know, they hit a $180 off of him. Like his numbers were gross, but it didn't matter.
Yep.
Zach Gallen's numbers were almost equally gross, including a scoreless streak of 44 and a third innings on a team where it actually mattered. So
right.
I struggle. I think Blake Snell wins it. I don't think he's earned it in the sense of he made an impact, but he pitched really well for a team when it didn't matter.
It's fair.
That's how I look at it. So
yeah.
I would love to see Zach Gallen win it. I feel like Zach Gallen deserves it for what he did for that rotation, but I think Blake Snell's going to win it based on stats alone.
I agree. That's another pitcher that's going to get paid.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, this 2.25 ERA in this day and age is
crazy.
Pretty ridiculous. He was lights out after the All-Star break. No one touched him. And this is the Blake Snell that we are used to seeing, the one we saw in the World Series for the Rays in 2020 that got taken out prematurely.
Well, he had 12 scoreless starts. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Like your numbers are gross. And the one thing I will say is that he pitches in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in baseball. Not that is necessarily his fault, but he does. But I think stats alone, he wins it. But Zach Gallen deserves a lot more votes than he's going to get.
Agree. All right, here we go. We'll save the AL MVP discussion for last.
I feel like we just kind of ignored Logan Webb altogether, but another guy who pitched great. But
yeah,
it just again it won't matter because of who he's up against.
Yep. And I mean, for a Giants team that just kind of hung around all year, like they were in the discussion, they were out of the discussion, but yeah. I think it's between Snell and Gallen for sure.
But Logan Webb, 62.7% ground ball rate. I mean, that's crazy. You don't get the ball in the air against this guy. You just don't.
No. Have you seen him pitch? Like that sinker is hard.
It's like Derek Lowe. The days of Derek Lowe. Like that sinker, when it's on, is just you cannot get the thing in the air. You just can't do it.
Disgusting. All right, like I said, we'll save the AL MVP discussion for last. So we'll switch. We'll switch to the NL MVP discussion. We got Ronald Acuna, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. All three of these guys I would want on my team in a heartbeat. Wouldn't think
we had one
about
of
them. Don't bring it up. What are your thoughts here?
It's Acuna. I mean, it has to be Acuna. And I say that, I look at the stat lines for Mookie and Freddie Freeman, and I just go, oh my God. But it has to be Acuna. I mean, what the guy did, he didn't have one of the best seasons in baseball this year. He had one of the best seasons in baseball ever, any year.
Right.
He was the NL Player of the Month 3 times. It's a 6-month season. There's nothing he didn't do. Plays stellar defense, cannon for an arm, stolen bases, OBP, average, power, RBIs. Like the dude, he does everything but make the hot dogs in the ballpark. Right. He might even make those before the game. I don't even know.
Right. I brought up that point, like about a month ago, was like, is this possibly the best statistical season we've seen out of a single player? Shohei Ohtani aside, he's in a category by himself. I'm talking strictly offensive numbers across the board. I mean, you talk about like a basketball player filling the stat sheet. This dude filled everything: walks, on base, stolen bases, doubles. I mean, he probably had 10 triples in there somewhere. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I mean, he had to have led the league, or is at least the top 5 in every single offensive category.
Yep.
I mean, it could possibly be the best single season we've seen out of a hitter, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a season where
Like fully complete.
I can't think of a season where I was more like, probably the summer of '98 with the home run chase was the
Right.
only season where I was more tuned into watching a certain player and what he was doing. And
Right.
all credit to Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts was tied with Acuna for WAR, and his slash line and 39 home runs, and the dude played a bunch of infield. Like Mookie Betts in a regular year is a runaway MVP winner here, and Freddie Freeman
Agree.
hit 331. Like he doesn't stink either. And he just seems to get better with age. I don't get it. And so I mean, I look at Betts and Freeman, and those guys are super deserving of it. But we are talking about Acuna having one of the best regular seasons we've seen maybe ever.
Yeah.
And nothing against those guys, but nobody did as much as Acuna did this year. I mean, and a guy like Matt Olson, a guy like Austin Riley, those guys have the numbers they have because Acuna wreaks havoc at the top of the lineup.
Yeah. I think it was like middle of June. I was watching a Braves game, and they said that Ronald Acuna had reached base 50% of the time leading off the ball game. And this was the middle of June.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big sample size.
Huge.
It's like, dude, the guy's on base half of his at bats, and then you blink and he's on third. It's
And
like
and Austin Riley and Matt Olson are getting hanging pitches because the pitchers are watching him. They're afraid of where he's going to go next. And if you're a guy in the middle of the lineup, whether you're Ozzy Albies or whoever might be hitting behind him, Riley, Olson, when there's consistently a guy on base that has a pitcher's attention, you're going to get so many more pitches to hit.
Yep. Hence the reason Olson hit a bajillion
50 some odd home runs. I mean, you just he puts so much pressure on the defense and on the pitcher that it changes the entire complexion of the game. He's so damn disruptive.
Agree.
There's no other player like him that can do all those things.
It's insane.
So to me, it's a runaway.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It should be unanimous, but there'll be some people that don't see it that way.
Yeah, we'll save the writer discussion for when there's a low news week later in the offseason here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
AL MVP. Moving on. Okay. No, just kidding. So we got Shohei Ohtani, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien.
I mean, how impressive is it that the double play combo of the Rangers is in the MVP conversation together?
Which is why you paid these guys.
You did. Those were the two. Those are the first two moves you made to put the Rangers back on the map.
Yep. I think this is a two-man race. This is Ohtani and Seager. And then this is where all the arguments that we made earlier for other people about like Josh Young not finishing the season could possibly come back and bite Shohei Ohtani here. The numbers for Ohtani are, I mean, as everyone knows, they're absolutely ridiculous. I mean, led the big leagues in slugging percentage at 654, OPS at 1066, 44 dingers, and he only played in 135 games.
Yeah. Yep.
On the mound, a 184 opponent's batting average, a 3.14 ERA, 167 strikeouts, and 132 innings.
Yep.
It's Shohei Ohtani. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. He's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
however,
it's hard to argue.
Right. However, Seager was also on the injured list a few times this year as well.
Just a couple.
So he had 119 games. He batted 327, a 1.013 OPS, 33 homers, 42 doubles. But Seager ended up finishing the season. So that's what's interesting there. But also only had 119 games. So
can I throw? No, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're going where I'm going to go.
Oh, did Ohtani play more games than Seager? So then that's where kind of my argument might go. Like I'm torn here. I really
So
am.
can I really mess with your brain?
Do it. Let's
My
go.
choice would be Semyon.
Really?
So let me tell you why. So I look at Corey Seager, and guy had a great season. Otani had a great season. Marcus Semien is the straw that stirs the drink in Texas. So let me explain why. Semien played in every single game, out there every single day. Third time in 4 seasons, he's played every single game. He led the AL in hits, had 100 RBIs, 29 home runs, led the AL in runs scored. You want to know why? Because like Acuna, he was on base all the friggin' time. He was constantly on base. And who benefits from that? Corey Seager does.
Corey Seager.
Adolis Garcia benefits from that. My argument, and this is like way out of left field because I never thought I'd feel this way until I actually broke it all down. I think Semien's the guy. I don't think Corey Seager has a season he has without Semien. And I think what Semien does makes the Rangers go. And that's why he was the first guy they signed. That's my argument.
I don't have a counter argument for that. I mean, that's a very valid point. I never really thought about breaking it down like that, but
Semien
playing all 162 games.
Yeah, Semien is the Rangers Acuna. Not quite as flashy, but he's the Rangers Acuna. He scores a boatload of runs. He gets on base a ton. He'll ambush you with a home run, but the guy plays every freaking day and wreaks havoc.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I never really even honestly put him into my thoughts, to be honest, and I don't know why. I probably should have.
Well, and I actually didn't think he'd get enough consideration. I mean,
to even get in the top
3. Yeah, I honestly didn't think he'd get in. I thought there'd be somebody else that popped up and took that spot, but I could see a guy like Adolis Garcia getting consideration. Like I could see other guys getting consideration ahead of him. I mean,
yeah,
Jordan Alvarez. I mean, name any Astro.
Right.
But I look at what Semien does, and I feel like Seager benefits from Semien. So it's hard to make the argument that Seager is more valuable. Now, is Seager a monster? Yes, but he only plays 3/4 of the season, kind of like Trout, kind of like Otani, puts up gaudy numbers. But Semien is out there day in and day out, wreaking havoc, getting on base, getting hits, hitting home runs, playing solid defense. Like he is the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Like I said, I never really thought of it that way. But
I honestly think, Nick, you could pick any of these 3 guys. I wouldn't be upset about it.
Agree. But I think this is the year Otani takes it.
It will be.
To be completely
It will be. And
I mean,
I hate it. I really hate it. And Shohei's season was ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. But that team sucks with or without him. He makes no impact. None.
Right. And that's the Blake Snell argument that we're going to return back to now, right? It's like he did all of this for a team that was competing with the A's for the worst record in the AL West, right? I mean, he did all of this and his team still could not win. And you have the second best player in the league also on your team, and you still can't win. Granted, Trout can't stay on the field.
No, he's a 120 game a year guy. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He'll hit 40 home runs in 120 games, but
so then it comes to the argument that we have every year at this time.
What is valuable?
What does valuable mean to you?
And I wish MLB would put guardrails on this award. Is it the best season? Are you the most outstanding player? Or is it the player that made the biggest difference and makes you the most valuable? Which one is it?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a muddy area for both, right?
Totally.
Because I mean, Acuna was definitely MVP and MOP, most outstanding.
Yeah, he wins them both.
I mean, no question out.
No.
Right. Now, you could argue. I would now that you made that statement about Semien, I would say he was the most valuable out of the 3. Guys always getting on base. He's there for Seager, there for Garcia, there for Jonah Heim, whoever's behind them to clean him up. Where Otani did all of this and it didn't matter a single way.
Otani was hitting solo home runs in games that they had already lost. Who cares?
Right. Yep. Yeah, that same running joke that's now getting old where it's Ohtani and Trout combined go 5 for 6 with 5 home runs and lose 12-5. Like,
It's ridiculous. It's to the point now where it's
yeah,
ridiculous. I mean, Ohtani goes
yeah,
3 for
agree.
4, hits 2 home runs, drives in 4, pitches great, and loses the game 5-4.
Yeah,
Like it's
it's every night. So yeah, I mean, I ultimately think Otani's going to get
I agree.
it
I think
just because, but
it's hard to not give it to him. But again, you go back to the definition of valuable, and I think there's a strong case to be made for Semien. When you look
yeah,
just strictly at the stats and who's the most outstanding player, Ohtani. It's Ohtani.
yeah, agree.
But I'll be, so next year when he can't pitch, what does Ohtani do?
He's going to Bryce Harper it, but he's going to obviously just DH. He won't go to first base.
Yeah, because that's the other problem with Ohtani is that when he's not pitching, he plays the least valuable position on the field, DH. The guy's played no innings in the outfield, none. I'm not even sure if he owns a glove to use in the outfield.
No, he has to borrow.
So he pitches and then he DHs, which again, crazy impressive. He can do both. But like when you again back to valuable, is he?
Where do you go?
Is he the most valuable, or is he just the best?
Yeah, and I mean that's what I said at the deadline when it was like all the talk about Ohtani possibly moving. Like, what team can he go to that's a borderline playoff team that gets them over the hump?
Nobody.
Like we had talked about him if he went to the Red Sox. At that time, the Red Sox were still battling for a wild card spot. Does Ohtani go to the Red Sox and make the Red Sox a playoff team? I don't know. I don't know if he does.
Yeah, I'm not convinced he does.
Right. If he goes to the Orioles, does he get them past the first round of the playoffs?
And
I don't think he does.
And I'm not convinced that he's a guy you can build a team around. I'm just not.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, I think you could build the correct team around him.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you put him in the Braves lineup.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Gracious. Right. Or you put him in Yankee Stadium that's got a, short porch and right. He's going to hit 75 home runs.
Yeah.
But does that make the Yankees better?
But like, if you put him in the D-backs lineup,
don't know.
Do they win the World Series?
Just in the lineup.
Sorry. You add Ohtani to the D-backs, healthy, pitching and hitting. Do they win the World Series this year?
I don't think they win it, but I think they get another win.
Okay, so he's worth one win in the World Series to you.
I think so.
So
I think he gets you a big hit in at least one of those games where the Diamondbacks stranded all of those runners on second base.
Fair.
So I think he wins you one game. I don't think they win the World Series with him.
So does he make you better? Yeah. Yes. Does he make you substantially better? No.
Yeah.
I think that's always been the struggle is that there are certain players, and I would honestly say like Acuna. Acuna to me is probably the most valuable player in all of baseball. More so than Ohtani because he does everything. I get it that Ohtani pitches and okay, cool, awesome. But what Acuna does is so disruptive to the other team.
Agree. Yeah. So I don't know. I have a feeling Ohtani's going to win this.
I think he wins it in a landslide, which I think is unfair to Seager and Semien, who deserve more credit than they're going to get.
Yep. But you know what? Like you said before we came on, like they're the ones laughing. They got the ring. So
that's the thing. You ask Seager and Semien, you want to be the MVP? If it means I got a World Series ring, don't care.
Yep. Don't care.
Done.
Yeah. All right. We are going to get to all of the opt-ins, opt-outs, exercised options. There's a long laundry list here, so I'm just going to pick out some key ones.
The World Series ended, and it was like a flurry of news, like every 15 minutes.
It was unreal. And I mean, there's some here. This one's worth noting. Obviously, we called this a couple weeks ago, but Javier Baez opts into his option for the next 4 years because he was
worthless.
He slashed 230, 273, and 361 over 280 games in a Tiger.
If there was a least valuable player award, Baez wins it. He's trash.
So he's got 4 years left on his 6-year, $140 million deal. So obviously he's going to opt.
And I will say, when the Tigers signed him, we all went, whoa, yikes.
Yeah,
Like, he's not the guy
crazy.
you think he is, and boy, has he proved us
Mm-mm.
right. We can all take a victory
Man.
lap on that one.
Yep. Josh Bell's option was exercised by the Marlins, so that he's got 1 year left in there.
Good
So
call.
good for the Marlins. Yep.
He didn't do a
Michael
lot
can.
for them, but he'll be helpful in their lineup. Full season.
I mean, I think he definitely helped them down the stretch to get him in the playoffs. He
Yeah,
had some big hits
he
for
did.
them
I
for
don't think
sure.
I don't think the whole balance of what he did was all that exciting. He did have some big hits for him,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
him for a full season will be good for that lineup.
Yep. Michael Conforto for the Giants. They exercised his option, so he's back with the Giants there.
That one makes
And
sense.
then two from the Rangers, which kind of shocked me a little bit, was they exercised Andrew Heaney and they exercised Jose Leclerc.
Yep.
So the Rangers both decided to bring them back. Heaney's got 1 year left on a $25 million deal. So that's what is that, 13 and a half, 12 and a
Yeah,
half?
12 and a half. Which I think
12 and a half.
I mean, and Heaney and Leclerc were good for them for the most part.
They're depth pieces or depth
Yeah.
piece for Heaney, and then obviously your closer in Leclerc,
Yeah,
which
and
I don't think he became the closer until after the year. Brian might, correct me here, but I don't know. But
no, and I don't think
I mean,
Leclerc I don't think he should be the closer. I think he kind of got that gig because there's really nobody else for it. And
I think Spores takes over the closer role
I
next year. He
totally
was
agree.
lights out.
I think Leclerc is a really good 7th or 8th inning guy. He's not your 9th inning guy, and he's proven that. He really struggled as the closer.
Mm-hmm.
He had a number of just wretched outings, and he was part of that blown save problem they had in August, September.
Yeah, him and everyone.
Yeah, he's a
else.
7th, 8th inning guy. He's not a 9th inning guy, and that's one thing the Rangers need to do is figure out the closer role.
Agree.
That's a hole.
Sean Manaea opted out of his club option from the Giants, so he's a free agent now.
I honestly forgot he was even around. That guy did zero.
Yep. Which that's why I'm surprised he kind of opted out. He did not have a great year.
No,
so
he was
interesting.
very disappointing.
Eddie Rodriguez from the Tigers, he has opted out. He's got 3 years left on his $5 million deal. So we'll get to him next week because we have a free agent show next week. I see him coming back to the Sox, to be honest, but we'll get to that later.
I think he's going to have a lot of people interested because he's a solid left-handed starter.
I do too, but I would love to see him back.
Brian is saying that's correct. It was Will Smith the first half.
That's
I completely
right.
forgot about Will Smith.
The three-time World Series champion with 3 different teams in 3 consecutive years.
Talk about a front runner. He just keeps going to the team that's going to win it.
Dude, crazy.
But again, he's one of those depth pieces that everybody wants.
Yep. Again, a lefty bullpen arm.
I completely forgot it was Will Smith for the first half.
Yep. Drew Smiley opts in with the Cubs. Jorge Soler opted out with the Marlins.
He's going to get paid.
That's a big bat in the lineup there.
If I remember correctly, he didn't really want to go to Miami. That was more like that was his only option, but I think this is going to be a better market for him.
I agree. I mean, a big power bat, 36 homers. He was only slated to earn $13 million, so he's looking to get paid there. Yep. Marcus Stroman from the Cubs here opted out. He's got 1 year left on his 3-year deal. Sorry.
I feel like that's a gamble for him though. His first half he was an all-star. His second half he was an 8+ ERA.
Yeah.
Like who is he? Like that's what he's going into an open market with people wondering who the hell he is.
I think there's so many teams that need starting pitching. I don't even think they're going to look at the back half of that season.
You're probably right. They're going to say, "We know you're capable of that. We're going to look for that."
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? He gets the right pitching coach, he gets the right ballpark.
True.
You pitch at Wrigley with the wind blowing out at 25 mile an hour every day, like infield pop-up ends up on Sheffield
Avenue. His first
Avenue,
half was so good.
Yeah. And he's been like that his whole career, even in Toronto. Like he would be lights out Cy Young stuff, and then you're watching the game and he's given up 10 straight homers. Yep. So I mean that's Marcus Stroman. Matt Carpenter optioned his exercise with the Padres. I mean,
of course, because he stunk. Sorry. He hit what 76 with them or something like that. It was wretched.
Yeah.
He's gonna make them pay him to go away.
Yeah, agree. Seth Lugo declined his option with the Padres.
That's kind of a sneaky one right there. I think that's Lugo's got value.
Yeah, because he can be a starter. He can be a bullpen arm.
He's a
It's an
very versatile
interesting.
arm. I think that's a sneaky move because I think there's going to be a big
Yeah.
market for a guy like that.
Yep, I agree. This one, Justin Turner declines the Red Sox option.
Why would you come back?
Now, I mean, I get not coming back to the Sox.
They're a mess,
right? I mean, it is. It's an absolute mess. I don't know. I think he ends up probably going back to LA and just reuniting with it because he's what, 38?
Yeah, 38.
37, 38. So I mean, like, I think it depends on how many years he thinks he has left. Does he think he still has 3 or 4 years left in him? Because if he's only got one more year, I would have just stayed and then retired. But maybe he is looking to go back to LA and hang him up.
Yeah, which the only problem there is that the Dodgers loved what JD Martinez did for them. If they re-sign JD, there's no spot for Justin.
Right. Agree.
So I think for him, he's looking at, I had a pretty good year. I'd like to get another year or two here. I'd like to get a 2-year deal, probably take me to 40. The Red Sox won't give me that. I'm going to be a free agent, see what my options are, and then I'll pick the best one. Because there will be a market for him. He's a veteran bat. Still has some value.
Has some pop.
Still some pop. Yeah, he had a good season. So I think there's going to be a market for a guy like that. I could see him going to a place like a Seattle or a Cleveland or probably not Cincinnati, although they could use him. Like I could see him being one of those veterans for hire to come in and kind of fill a hole for a young team.
Yeah, it's fair. So those were all player options, I believe I was just reading. Yeah, those are player options. So now we're on to club options here. Tim Anderson obviously declined.
The biggest no-brainer of the offseason. Get that dude out of town.
He had a $14 million club option and a $1 million buyout. So literally the White Sox were like, here's $1 million.
I would love to get paid $1 million to go away.
Yeah. He's a very interesting free agent because I don't know anyone who's possibly gonna want that on their
Red
team,
Sox,
to be completely honest.
but
there's already rumors flying that the Padres might try to send Bogarts back here.
Well, that's, as we said, that is a mistake. The contract they signed was a giant mistake.
I have washed my hands completely with Xander Bogaerts. I'm sorry. I don't want him back in Boston.
I'll take him back, but they're going to eat half that contract.
You're ripping that contract up, and you're not paying that dude for 11 years. Sorry.
No, they're going to pay half of it. They're going to pay half that contract at least. So you can DFA him a couple of years short at the end and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That contract might be one of the worst I've ever seen.
Hands down.
Awful.
I can't even think of any. It's bad. It's real bad. Alex Cobb with the Giants, they picked up their club option.
Good call.
I mean, that's just another depth starter for the Giants. I think that's
a low cost depth play.
Yep. Let's see. Kyle Hendricks with the Cubs. They exercised his option. At $16 million.
I don't think that. He is probably an underappreciated piece of that team. Is he great? No. Does he chew up innings? Yes.
He is an innings eater. He is the modern day Greg Maddux. He's not Greg Maddux.
No,
that's not what I'm saying. But he throws 88 miles an hour, 92 miles an hour with a ton of movement. But he's not your typical starting pitcher.
No, he'll give you 7 innings, give up 2 runs, and the next outing he'll go 5 innings and give up 9.
Yeah,
that's just who he is, and he's always been that way. But he chews up innings. He is good enough to be in the rotation. I mean, hell, if Rich Hill can still get a job, why can't Kyle Hendricks?
I mean, fair point. This one kind of hurts me to my core because of everything this dude has been through. But Liam Hendricks' club option was declined.
It only makes sense because he's getting Tommy John.
Right. I get it. But coming off from, cancer, and then after his 5th appearance, needs Tommy John. I mean, that one
I
hurts.
feel
the
like the
core.
White Sox fans should start a GoFundMe to pay his contract anyways.
Legit.
That dude,
I mean, man.
what he's been through and what he's given that city, holy cow.
Yep.
It ain't right.
Nope. Joe Kelly from the Dodgers, they declined his option
Because he was terrible.
So he is
like
yep.
Joe Kelly Flight Club was not very good when he got there. But another guy who just continues to bounce around the league. Because he's just good enough to make you think, he'd be a good piece of the bullpen. The guy's
somebody that can come in and get me.
But the guy's a mental midget.
Yep.
And a liability out there. I mean,
yep.
My God.
This is a great move for the Twins. Max Kepler.
Yep.
They exercise his option. This kid's
no-brainer.
Love watching him. Yeah. For $10 million. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's cheap.
Yep.
If only they could
decline
Byron Buxton.
What'd you say?
If only the Twins could decline Byron Buxton's contract.
Goodness, just void that thing. Corey Kluber option decline from the Red Sox. Thank God.
Yeah, they put the guy on the IL when he wasn't even hurt to get him off the field.
My goodness gracious, brutal.
They gave him the whole second half of the season off.
Yep. The Dodgers declined Lance Lynn, so they don't want him and his league-leading home runs
back. He was so bad.
So bad.
Lance Lynn will show up again, though. He'll be somebody's fifth starter.
Yep. Nick Martinez for the Padres, they declined his option, too. So that could be possibly – he's another like Seth Lugo guy who can start, who can be a long relief in the bullpen.
He was super valuable.
Come in for 1 or 2 innings.
In their playoff run last year, he was super valuable.
Yep. Agree. This one, Charlie Morton. The Braves took his option at $20 million. Is Charlie Morton a $20 million a year pitcher?
He was 3 years ago. He was not good this past year.
I was kind of shocked on that one.
I thought for sure they would decline him and go use that money somewhere else. They've got guys that need to get re-signed. They've got other people they can go and pursue. Charlie,
I mean, they got everybody pretty much locked up, though. I mean, I think that's their saving grace.
Yeah, you only have a couple of contracts you got to worry about there, but in reality, for $20 million, you can find a better guy to be your fifth starter than Charlie Morton.
Which I'm going to get to in a minute because they declined Eddie Rosario.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like declining Rosario, but picking up Morton. So maybe they value the pitching spot more, which I think the Braves should do because I think that's where their weakness was and their downfall was.
And Rosario's been kind of up and down for them. Like he's been really good, really bad.
There isn't a spot for him.
Well, it's not anymore. No, you're right.
Michael Harris has come up and just taken that spot.
Eddie Rosario was really good in their World Series run. So good for them.
Yep. Max Muncy for the Dodgers. They pick up the club option and then they sign a 2-year extension with him through 2026. So with a club option.
Yeah, it was what, 2 years, $24 million. So at $12 million a year, they're paying what, like $800,000 per hit?
Give or take a couple dollars, but yeah, you're pretty much on.
But again, there's a guy who fills a role.
Yep.
Like Schwarber. They fill a role and they work because other guys around them can pick them up.
Yep. I mean, he was like Schwarber, wasn't he close to 100 RBIs?
Yeah.
Hit like 200.
And he hit like 213 or something ridiculous. He was hitting
it also helps.
He was hitting like 185 at one point and he pulled it all the way up.
Yeah. It helps when you have Betts and Freeman on in front of you all the time.
Muncy plays a role. He is there to lose a ball every now and then.
Yep. Jorge Polanco for the Twins. They exercised his option, which again, that's another great one. Let's see. Anybody else? I talked about Rosario. Oh yes, our boy Joey Votto.
That one hurts. I get it.
Option declined. $20 million club option. $7 million buyout. I mean, dude, I wish my school would just be like, here's $7 million. Don't come back tomorrow.
Yeah, go away.
Deep down, I was hoping they declined his option to be like, hey, we want you back, but could you just maybe come sign for like $4 or $5 million, or maybe the $7 million that we're buying you out at. You know what I mean? Like something like that, because I don't want to see Joey Votto in another uniform.
No, I don't think Joey Votto wants to see Joey Votto in another uniform.
No, he doesn't. He already said he's like, my heart's in Cincinnati. So I think at this point, if they don't rework a deal, he just retires.
Well, and the Reds came out either yesterday or today and made the comment of, the reason they declined the option was they just can't give him the playing time that he deserves. They've got young players they want to get in the lineup. They want to give more exposure to. So Joey Votto is more of a, hey, we're changing directions here with young players. We can't give you the playing time you probably should have. We're going to let you go explore other options. Doesn't mean Joey Votto doesn't come back and say, hey, look, I'm fine being a part-time player. Bring me back. But I just, the thought of him not being in baseball hurts.
Agree. I still need to get my Joey Votto uniform in the mail because I need it for sure.
He's and if baseball doesn't find some way to keep him involved, it'll be a sad day. That guy is absolutely the ambassador of baseball.
Agree. All right. Mutual options here. I don't have the details on these. They said they're rarely exercised. So these guys pretty much just go straight to free agent. We'll start with a big one who I think is going to end up in the evil umpire is Cody Bellinger.
Yep.
Another high strikeout, high power guy. Although he did hit over 300
this
year.
He had a good season.
I think he ends up in New York. That's just my own personal opinion.
I feel like Chicago's going to make a run to keep him.
You think
I
so?
do. I really think they do. I think the option's more. I think they're declining the option more so they can work out a long-term deal.
Okay,
that's my hope.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, you're taking Stroman off the books, so why not? You'll have the money to do it,
and that's a huge hole to try to fill in free agency. Huge hole,
especially with you got Swanson there, Horner there, the young core coming. Bellinger's a big piece of that, and it showed that he can play in Chicago.
My hope is that they are declining this solely to work out a long-term deal.
Yeah,
but I do think the Yankees are going to make a run at him. Yeah, and I think a team like the Twins will make a run at him too.
That's an interesting fit too. Yeah, so they can sit Byron Buxton.
Yeah, I mean he'll spin himself when he gets hurt. So.
Yep. Mike Clevenger, free agent. I don't think if he moves the needle as much as he used to.
No, he's not the same guy.
No.
I would agree.
And then the other big name on this, or sort of big name, is Whit Merrifield from the Blue Jays.
And I'm actually surprised the Blue Jays didn't make a bigger push to keep him. He fit in pretty well with them.
He did. They needed a second baseman.
Bad.
Because Biggio was up and down. He was inconsistent.
It leads me to believe they think that Biggio will figure it out.
Turn the corner. Yeah, I agree.
Or they're just going to commit to him and say, look, here, it's your spot, kid. Figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to break up the legacy players, for goodness sakes.
It's working out so well for him.
Yeah. So that was the list of opt-outs, opt-ins, mutual. And I skipped a few.
There's so many more, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right. I do have trivia questions. What do we got? Hour 23. All right, let's go. We'll just rattle these off real quick. Here we go. Trivia time. If you're listening, you can chime in here too. So this is all based around free agency and everything like that. So here we go. Who was the first major league player in modern era to sign a free agent deal, signing with the Yankees for 5 years, $3.25 million?
Oh, God, I used to know the answer to this question, too. Give me the year.
I don't have the year, but Reggie Jackson signed soon after this guy. I'll give you the position, a pitcher, and he came from the A's.
Catfish?
Yes, Catfish Hunter.
I used to know the answer to this question. I'm like, I cannot remember what it was.
Yep. Catfish Hunter was the very first free agent, and then Reggie Jackson signed with the Yankees soon after. So they both went to the Yankees, but he was the first free agent. 5 years, $3.25
Jesus, amazing how the economics have changed.
Yeah. All right. So staying on this. Now, the wording on this is you got to kind of pay attention to it. Who owns the 3 richest free agency contracts in Major League Baseball history?
Ooh, Bryce Harper.
He's number 2, 13 years at 330.
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge is number 1, 9 years at 360
Is
million.
Trey Turner third?
No, he was like fifth, tied for fifth, I think. We talked about this guy a lot tonight. Just signed a big one a couple years ago.
Cole?
Nope. They just won the world championship.
Oh, Seager. That's right. He was like
Yes.
325.
Yep, exactly. Right on it. 10 years, 325. So those are the 3 richest free agency.
I always forget, like, Seager set the shortstop market, then everybody came in so far below it.
Yeah.
Like a year later.
So I said I had to preface it with the free agency contracts because Mike Trout's contract is higher, but it wasn't a free agent
he re-signed
deal,
while he was with them.
Yep. Okay. What 3 players currently earn or have the highest annual value?
Oh, goodness. Trout?
No.
Oh, that's right. He's been superseded now. So you got Judge.
Judge is number 3 at $40 million a year.
You've got Verlander and Scherzer, right?
Verlander and Scherzer are 1 and 2, $43.3
the exact same contracts.
Yep. Those are your top 3
can you
highest annual value.
Max Scherzer did nothing of any impact this year and made $43 million on that contract, not to mention when he's also still getting paid by the Nationals.
Yeah, it was north of 70, I think it was.
I mean, the dude made like 60 some odd million bucks this year and didn't do jack.
Crazy. The last one is pretty cool. I think you'll get this one too. Who was the first Major League Baseball player to earn a salary of $1 million per year?
Oh, interesting. $1 million a year. Okay. This is going to be beyond Babe Ruth era. It's going to be beyond Mantle and those guys era.
Yep.
Beyond Ted Williams.
Yep. This guy played for a long time.
Wasn't
from like 67 to 92.
Ruben Sierra. I'm close, right?
No.
Nolan Ryan.
Ryan, yeah. 4 years, $4.5 million with the Astros is when he signed.
Could you imagine paying a guy like that $4.5 million for over a 4-year contract?
Yeah, he was the first one to have an annual value of $1 million.
Oh my God! And you got Charlie Morton making $20 million, and Nolan made 4.5 over 4 years.
Absolutely,
isn't
nuts.
that mind numbing?
All right, so the poll question I put out this week was simply, where does Ohtani sign? We had 24 votes, which is by far our highest vote total here.
This is one that gets people's attention.
Yeah. And these were the choices I put out. Red Sox, Mets, Dodgers, Yankees, Giants, Rangers, and then other. So we had a tie for first. Other. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about listing all 30 MLB teams. I was like, no.
That's crazy.
So
the Royals are not going to sign Ohtani.
Right. So Red Sox have 6 votes, and also with 6 votes, the Texas
Did
Rangers.
You vote for the Red Sox 6 times, Nick?
Yeah, I have 6 burner accounts, and I voted for the Red Sox 6 times. In second place, the Yankees with 4. Third place, the Dodgers with 3. And then the other was 3. And then the Mets and Giants with 1 vote. You're really sticking with the Giants.
I'm all in on the Giants going after him. I think that the Giants have come up empty-handed 2 off seasons in a row. They are not going to let it happen again. San Francisco is a natural fit for Ohtani in terms of culture and location. I just feel like the Giants, after having a bad season and firing Gabe Kapler, have to make a splash. And I feel like they're going to go all in on Ohtani. They're going to overpay him, but they need the win finally in free agency. And
they got Bob Melvin there on the seat. They have the right manager there.
They do.
I mean, I don't hate that pick.
No, I
really don't.
And Ohtani mentioned, was it today or yesterday? Ohtani made a comment that his 3 choices right now that he's leaning towards are the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Red Sox. He has interest in those 3 organizations. So I shouldn't say he's leaning towards those. Those are the ones he's most interested in.
Yeah.
And I think it makes sense. LA makes a lot of sense.
1,000%.
San Fran makes a lot of sense, and Boston makes a lot of sense. I don't think the Red Sox will pay him. And honestly, as a Red Sox fan, I don't want the Red Sox to pay him.
Yeah. I mean, if I was still living in Boston, I'd be all
Yeah.
in just so I could go see the guy
And
play. Although tickets would be
oh
ridiculously
yeah,
hard to come by.
nuts. But I think Brian's right. I think Seattle is a sleeper in this. I just don't think Seattle has the money to pull it off.
I tend to agree with you more. Like that was my early pick. Like early this year, I'm like, okay, I think Seattle could possibly make a run here. I just the more this trudges on here, I'm just like I just don't
Seattle
quite see it.
Seattle makes a lot of sense culturally, the location, the ballpark, everything makes
The
sense.
team
Yeah,
wise,
I just don't think they've got the money to pull it off.
yeah, or the interest from Otani. To be honest,
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like he hasn't really even like given Seattle a thought.
yeah, and pardon me for this comment, Stacy, but Seattle's not a great baseball market. It's just not a great baseball market.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, homerism aside, I think that the Red Sox is a good fit for Otani on a personal level. I don't know the guy personally.
You guys don't hang out?
I mean, here and there when
gotcha.
he's a little busy, but
I mean, yeah.
I mean,
although not in September he wasn't.
But just the history behind like the Red Sox have been involved with Japanese players for a long time. You go back to Hideo Nomo, you have Daisuke, you have Yoshida now.
Well, apparently the Red Sox are deep into Yamamoto. They've got Yoshida.
Yep.
It could be like a Japanese homecoming for Otani.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do think and sorry to interrupt you, but I do think where Otani goes will help influence where Yamamoto goes.
Also a great point. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Craig Breslow's press conference, when he says the checkbook is open pretty much.
Better be.
Gives me, I hope it's not false hope, but I hope that they address what they need. So, so Brian's saying number one.
I mean,
Boston
makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the Sox are going to pay him. And as a fan, the thought of committing that much money to one player doesn't make me feel like you can build a contender around that. Maybe you can. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the Angels did it with Trout, and where's that led them to?
Right.
The Yankees did it with Judge last year. Where'd that lead them to? Name me a single team that has one of those mega contracts on it that's actually been good.
The Rangers.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's it. Really.
But Seager's $32 million. He's not even at the in terms of annual value, he's not necessarily at the highest end of it. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I agree.
The Rangers are the first team to have two big contract guys, and they've won.
That pan out.
Yep,
I agree. All right. Other news, real quick. I know we've gone pretty long tonight. It's just been a lot to cover. I mean, we haven't even covered the other manager hires here. But first of all, we have a retirement. Nelson Cruz retires at the ripe age of 78.
At least.
Nelson Cruz has finally decided to hang him up. A good career for this
Great
guy.
career.
I mean, great career. That guy can hit some moonshots.
Oh my goodness.
And still can at 42 or whatever.
Career out of being that kind of slugger specialist that would just move around.
Yep. I mean, there were some years in Texas, years in Seattle he just absolutely raked.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, all right. Real quick here. Stephen Vogt is officially hired as the Guardians manager.
Love that move. So he's going to be so good for them.
I do too. Like we said, another freaking catcher getting a manager's spot. So cool. Congratulations to him. And then the Yankees.
Brian hangs up the day after we win the Fall Classic. It's a fair point. I mean, he was a big part of that Texas team that made the last run.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. And then finally, Carlos Mendoza is named the Mets manager for that poor organization. So he goes from the bench for the Yankees to the head seat on the bench for the Mets. So
great baseball guy, very well respected, had a number of teams interested in him. Not the hire I saw the Mets making.
No. Again, kind of circling back to Counsell right here. I wonder if Counsell went to New York and was like, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, was he offered the job and he was just like, yeah, no, I think I'm good? Or
it's possible.
You know? because I mean the Mets are going to have to rebuild. I mean they took everybody out. They're cleaning house. Wouldn't surprise me if Alonso gets moved in this offseason. There's been talks and rumblings. So if he does, like, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think he ultimately gets traded, to kind of circle back on what I just said.
Yeah, he's
but
a tough guy to move.
Wouldn't shock me if he did.
Tough guy to move.
Right.
But
yeah, wouldn't shock
the
me.
Mets are a rebuilding project. Unless you're willing to go in and sign up for that, it's not going to be a super attractive job.
Agree. So yeah, now I can take a breath about an hour and a half later.
And we've got plenty of stuff to talk about the next few weeks here, Nick. Holy cow.
My God, man, it's crazy. Do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we'll get to over the next few weeks, but it's been the World Series ended and it was a flurry of activity like I can't remember.
Yeah, absolutely. So next week is going to be a little bit of a special show because we got to get it in before the free agency starts flying, or it won't even matter. I mapped out all of the possible free agents this year, and we are going to go through and try to guess where they're going to land. And then the person that guessed the most wins bragging rights because we don't have anything on it. But
that assumes we get any of them right. There are so many coin flips here.
Yeah. So I think I have like the top 20, so it won't take us too long because I'm sure there'll be other news to talk about. But so that would be kind of a fun show. We'd love for you guys to come in and add your thoughts to where these guys might go. But it'll be fun to talk about. And yeah, you can just tune in next Monday at 8, and we will be talking about mostly free agents and other news from the week. So thanks for watching. Thanks for chiming in. And make sure you follow us on Facebook. You can also subscribe on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also keep commenting on our reels, sharing our reels. We love the interaction. So keep it up. And thanks for all your support. And we will see you next Monday at 8 p.m.
Congratulations again to the Rangers. See you next week.